Hello, mate. How's it going? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Welcome back, of course, to Chelsea News, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it. More importantly, friend, asking for yours. Welcome back to the studio. Namaste, bienvenue. Today we're reflecting on some intel, some data, some reporting from Simon Johnson of The Athletic, with also Dominic Fifield contributing to this article, talking about transfers, etc., etc. Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital own Chelsea Football Club. That has been confirmed. We are potentially expecting some media, some updates from Chelsea today, and should we get that, I will of course react as quick as I can and try and deliver said content with my take on it, and of course starting up the conversation with you guys in the comment section. So make sure you are subscribed and have that bell notifications icon clicked for updates, friends, because you don't want to miss a video. Why would you want to miss a video? And thank you, all of you, for dropping likes, because they help content creators. That's how it works, baby. So yeah, I'll link this article down in the description. But let's pick up a little bit down from the introduction from Simon Johnson. So he talks about the owners and people, like Tuchel and stuff, congregating after Chelsea's final Premier League game. And where do we go from here? What's next? Boehly had already met with head coach Thomas Tuchel and his players earlier in the month. While being shown the facilities at the club's Cobham training ground, he spoke to members of the squad, some on their own and others in groups, depending on how he came across. He also spoke with the Chelsea women's manager, Emma Hayes, and her plans on another visit. He plans another visit. But conducting conversations in a more relaxed setting after a win over Watford helped form closer bonds, and the American has remained in London since to hold meetings over what the structure of the club is going to look like post Roman Abramovich. Finalising the takeover has been a complicated and difficult process, but the hard work to improve Chelsea on and off the pitch is ahead of him. Still, many of those who left Sunday's event did with a sense of optimism. And why not feel optimistic? That's a word, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we like to do here in Football Therapy, because half full, the cup is half full, and we move. Inevitably, the main thing anyone who follows Chelsea cares about is how much money will be available to spend on new signings. After finishing with 19 fewer points than title winners Manchester City, and 18 points adrift from runners-up Liverpool, there's clearly a lot of room for improvement. Amen. The world champions, that's us, Chelsea, also know they're losing regular defensive starters, Rudiger Christensen, to Real Madrid and Barcelona respectively. There is 2 spots in the team that need filling from the outset. You could argue more as well. Wing-backs, midfielder, attacker. Let's find out what Simon has to say. Before we go into that in more detail, the early indications are the new owners plan to run things differently from Abramovich. Now, this is positive, if you ask me. The manager, for example, Thomas Tuchel, there were 14 changes of coach, including interims, in the 19 years under the Russian mad. The club talked regularly about wanting stability in the dugout, but it never came. Not that hurt them too much, as they won 19 major trophies in the Roman Abramovich era. That is a lot of silverware, ladies and gentlemen, and generally, the majority of us aren't complaining for the most part. Excuse me. But new ownership means a new philosophy. It won't come across as an enormous surprise that the incoming group rate Tuchel very highly and they want him to remain in charge. That will come as a relief to me, probably you as well, dear viewer/listener. However, their general aim is to end the hiring and firing policy that went on before. Chelsea haven't had a manager or head coach last over 3 years since Jose Mourinho's first spell in 2004 to 2007. It sounds like Tuchel and any successors who follow the German will be given the opportunity to beat that. Of course, the average for a Chelsea manager at the club is 2 years. So if you exceed 2 years, you're doing better than the average. And Tuchel, he's done 18 months? About thereabouts, so he's closing in. There is also belief that Abramovich didn't fully maximise the potential of the marketing Chelsea abroad and building the club into an even bigger brand. I agree. He could probably have a lot to learn from how Manchester United have developed their brand. As much as United fans don't like that, it brings in money. If you got money, you can just be better and pay more wages. In theory. The global fan base has grown significantly over the past 2 decades, and pre-season tours to the US and Asia have played a part in that, but don't be surprised if Chelsea are even more aggressive in those markets from now on. Of course, we've got American ownership now, so you'd think go hard on America for the sweet, sweet money. The knock-on effect of growing the club's popularity will be more revenue streams generating money, which can be invested in recruitment, but that can't happen overnight. So what's the budget for this summer? And zoom in, money talk. Talk of Tuchel being given 200 million to spend has inevitably generated a lot of excitement, but reaching this figure depends on the kind of sales Chelsea make in the current squad. That 200 million is not to believe to be a guaranteed sum. Who knows, maybe we'd get more, Simon. As Tuchel revealed after the Watford game, he has put his summer holiday on hold so he can get to work on transfer targets. But Chelsea aren't starting from scratch here, even though they have been under the UK government sanctions related to, Roman and all that stuff of Ukraine. Conversations were held on who they would move for once the takeover process was complete, and it should be highlighted that the scouting team monitor potential signings for a long period of time, not just a few weeks. Yeah, and Chelsea's scouting, whether you like it or not, they scout people for a long, long time. In different leagues, different levels, and conversations will have happened inside the building. Let me just sip my coffee. There's nothing illegal about having conversations indoors, This is not breaking the sanctions. We're just chatting to each other in our own house, The first player through the door should be the one who came close joining a year ago, Kounde. Personal terms on a 5-year deal. I heard it was 4-year yesterday, but we move. Have agreed a Spanish side, Sevilla, for the 23-year-old France international centre-back. Ooh, the only reason the switch wasn't completed is because, they suddenly asked for more money. We've spoken about that at length. Let's move on. Sevilla have just sold Kounde's regular centre-back partner, Diego Carlos, to Aston Villa for £26 million. So that is worrying, but Chelsea don't think that will stop the La Liga club from being negotiating the sale of the Frenchman too. The fee, 50 million plus, would be a significant chunk of their overall budget. But if he's a player that we've wanted for a long time, and he's a genuine Thomas Tuchel target, remember how long Liverpool wanted Virgil van Dijk from Southampton, and they ended up paying silly money for him? But it was all worth it for them, wasn't it? I'm not saying he's going to be Van Dijk, but when your heart is set on a player, when a manager's heart is set on a player, you go for that, baby girl. Do you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens there. Chelsea have looked at other centre-backs as well. RB Leipzig's 20-year-old rising star, Josko Jarvidal. But the budget, depending on outgoings, Tuchel will also need to consider this, from the squad within. Levi Colwill impressed on his loan in the Championship at Huddersfield this season and has been thought of as potentially emulating Trevor Chalobah, who came through the academy ranks and was promoted to the senior squad last year. Tuchel wants to have a close look at the 19-year-old Colwill, who is subject to transfer interest from several clubs during pre-season, of course, scoring the decisive own goal in the playoff final, which is pretty unlucky. It wasn't, it was a moment of craziness. He didn't do too much wrong, but it was really unfortunate for the lad. And, he's going to be an excellent footballer. Regardless, the spell at Huddersfield for Colwill only... The spell with Huddersfield is Colwill's only loan move to date, and it might decide he needs more time. The time to a Premier League club before declaring him ready to play for Chelsea. Everton amongst those are interested, but understood they are not running to sign him right now. Of course, Mason Mount and Reece James and Tammy Abraham all came from the Championship to Chelsea first team. Tammy had done a few games for Swansea, of course, in the top flight. But they were ready, but that was a special mitigating circumstances. There is value of a Premier League loan after Championship loans. Just look at Conor Gallagher. The position of wing-back, full-back, formation change? I don't think so, is another issue. After 6 years, the club finally planned to offload Marcos Alonso. He's wanted back in the homeland by Barcelona. Ben Chilwell has recovered well from the November knee injury and will be back in as first choice. So that's that. Tuchel is looking to make Emerson Palmieri, the Euro 2020 winning Italy international who spent the last season on loan in France, Chilwell's backup. So there you go. Emerson didn't want to be third choice at Chelsea, possibly consider being second choice behind Chile, maybe even challenging him if he reaches good form. I don't think you can really have a problem with that. If Tuchel really does like Emerson, and he did sound like he really liked Emerson, then he should be good for a backup. He tried to end his loan in January, of course, to bring him back, but was unable to do. There's still uncertainty for the future captain, says Azpilicueta. He played enough games to automatically trigger the 12-month extension, but it's believed he might still go to Barcelona. Barcelona have offered him a better deal for 2 years with an option of a third. And Tuchel has revealed this month that the player has suggested he wants to move after a decade at Stamford Bridge, of course winning every trophy and captaining us to a European Cup. He completed it. #completed it, mate. I understand if you'd want to go. Let's move on. There's a bit of a contrast to the backup goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga. Observers noted how his goodbyes to his teammates on Sunday evening were more prolonged than usual, as if it was the last time he was with them. Kepa wants first-team football to try and get back into the Spain squad for the World Cup in November and December. Newcastle are aiming to push under new ownership. Kepa to Newcastle. Interesting. He probably sees what's happening there, and he's young enough, Kepa, that if he stays at Newcastle for like 6, 7, 8 years, he could like be challenging for silverware with them. That's just where we are, ladies and gentlemen. If he has no problem with the ownership, then, go and do your thing. If Kepa goes, Chelsea will be a goalkeeper short for the squads to aim for, with only Mendy and Bettinelli, whose only appearance last season was the FA Cup against non-league side Chesterfield. They want to purchase Gabriel Slonina from Chicago Fire in the MLS, but he only turned 18 a couple of weeks ago, so maybe that's one for the future. Interesting. Maybe he could be the third choice and Bettinelli could be second, but how good is Bettinelli? A possible contender for a backup is the homegrown Nathan Baxter, who's obviously had a really good loan, he's been on 6 loans in England and Scotland to try and prove he's good enough to make his debut for the parent club Chelsea. Hull City, who's played for 16 times in the Championship this season, want to buy him, but the 23-year-old will wait and see if he has his chance to make it at Stamford Bridge. Yeah, he has had a good season, Nathan Baxter, so if Tuchel gives him a chance, then yeah, sweet. Elsewhere, Chelsea want to cover for the right wing-back, full-back position. Reece James, who started only 22 of the 38 Premier League games this season, was due to injury. An academy graduate is in contention at that position. Dujon Sterling, wow, throwback. I remember, how old's Dujon Sterling now? He can't be that young anymore. Tuchel rates, he's 22, but he's been around, like mentioned, for the last 4 years, I think, who's impressed during pre-season with him last summer before being loaned to the Championship side Blackpool, where he started 22 league games before an ankle injury cut the season short. Yeah. Interestingly, sources suggest Chelsea are also monitoring Achraf Hakimi's situation at Paris Saint-Germain. They lost out to the Ligue 1 club when he was the attacking right back for Inter the previous year, and wasn't he a Real Madrid player before that? No, Dortmund or sorry, whatever. He's been all over the gaff. James has 3 years left on his contract, but is admired by Real Madrid and Man City. Reece James is not going to Man City. I don't know about Real Madrid. I'm pretty darn sure he won't be, but he will not go to Man City. Chelsea want open talks about a new deal, which obviously indicates they have no desire to sell him this summer, and rightly so. But reigniting the interest in Hakimi does pose a question of whether they are readying themselves just in case James leaves in the future. No, not having that. Tuchel did want Achraf Hakimi. He probably would have just said, right, Reece James, you're a right centre-back now, you play well, I love you there, because he says he loves him 50-50 at wing-back and centre-back. So maybe he would say, Achraf right wing back, Reece James right centre back. You massively wasting Reece James in many ways, but then you get Hakimi there as well. Chelsea, I don't think are going to buy Hakimi. Hakimi's getting paid silly money at PSG. He costs loads of money. He costs them 70 million, unless they need to sell because financial fair play offices are at their door. But that's highly unlikely. Acquiring the Morocco international would allow James to move into the back three. There you go, he said it. Let's move on. If Chelsea decide to invest in a wing-back, Barcelona's US international Sergio Dest has also been on their radar since the start of the year. The fact how the 21-year-old can play on both flanks is attractive, kind of like how we've used Callum Hudson-Odoi in many ways. The Athletic explained last month, persuading James and his England teammate Mason Mount to stay at Stamford Bridge can't be taken for granted, despite their obvious affection they have for their boyhood club. It will be a big surprise now if Conor Gallagher isn't in the Chelsea lineup next term. Ooh, wow, Simon, lineup, certainly in the squad. Tuchel is already a fan and was going to involve him this season, only to be convinced that the midfielder would develop quicker by playing more regularly on loan at Crystal Palace. Gallagher did so well in the Palace shirt, he became a full England international and will inject some much-needed energy into Tuchel's system when he comes back to base. Following returning loanees, Ethan Ampadu and Billy Gilmour will get opportunities to show what they can do in pre-season, but you'd have to say at this point, yeah, Conor Gallagher is ahead in the pecking order. This is a big old video, isn't it? The sanctions have appeared to deny Chelsea the chance of buying Aurélien Tchouameni. Real Madrid, Liverpool and PSG have taken advantage of the West Londoners' inability to negotiate. It does look like Chelsea have lost Tchouameni. Chelsea have a long-standing interest, though, in West Ham's and England midfielder Declan Rice, and Tuchel has spoken to his staff about his qualities. However, the Athletic have been told West Ham's stance in asking for 150 million, which would be the third highest transfer fee ever, behind only what PSG paid for Neymar and Mbappe. Yeah, come on, guys. Has so far scared off all suitors. United and City are also interested, but all three have not made contact yet. And they're waiting for the 23-year-old's contract to run down. And of course, Rice has turned down many contract offers from West Ham. One that was over 200k a week for 8 years, which is, mind blown that he's turning that down. They will lose him, and yeah, not for much. Napoli old boy Jorginho could be persuaded to return to Serie A after 4 years in England. With Juventus as a possible destination, Manchester United want Kante for new manager Erik ten Hag. What? Pause. Stop. Vinyl scratch. Man United want Kante. Yeah, I bet they do, mate. Yeah, but for Erik ten Hag, but Tuchel will take some convincing to let him go. He won't let him go to Premier League rivals. Yeah, he called him he's our Mbappe, he's our Mo Salah. He won't want Kante to go. Side talks about selling players. Christian Pulisic, selling him would be a strange move, given their ambitions to promote Chelsea heavily in the United States, with an American owner, of course. So for me, that wouldn't make much sense, selling Pulisic, but a lot of Chelsea fans are done with him. Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech could easily go. Among the players under consideration, Chelsea are looking at Lautaro Martinez. This is literally just to try and keep Romelu Lukaku happy, isn't it? We've got your friend here, Lautaro Martinez, to unlock your potential. Of course, Lukaku has sacked his agent, Pastorello, and is trying to maybe either get assurances he's going to be the starting striker for Chelsea or go back to Inter. And to be honest, man, I kind of understand that. He's, where he's been, Lukaku. He's 29. He can't mess about now. He's got to sort himself out. And you're looking at Nkunku as well. There's a lot of data in this article going over the story, so if you want the finer details in between, click the link down in the description. But I wanted to go through it to give those of you a full update of where we are at the moment. And of course, when the stories break from, other journalists and platforms and news stories and rumours, we're going to react here on the channel, so make sure you keep it locked and you are subscribed. But exciting stuff. I'm going to keep the tabs on all these players, ins and outs, and I look forward to sharing with you and reporting it, and also reacting to any media now from Chelsea regarding the Bowley announcement. Sorry for a long video, but some of you have asked for longer content, so thanks for hanging out. See you soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life, seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.